Uh, it's been a challenging year. I've had some medical problems, but fortunately I was able to foresee a little bit of it because I've been going through it a little bit longer than a year. And Deborah and Peggy have stepped up and become professional auctioneers, licensed auctioneers, and they have really helped me out during this period of time. Yeah, Peggy's a great auctioneer. She does our Friday night sales at the fire department, and she does it all on her own. And she has really progressed really good. Deborah's a better auctioneer than I am because I joke and carry on, and Deborah's all serious. So if she's auctioning and you want something, you better bid on it, because if you slow down, she's going to sell it and move on to something else. I was born in July 22nd, 1950, and I was actually born in a house straight across from the Wright's funeral home in the basement of that house. And it was cinder block room, and it was a one-room rental apartment my father and mother lived in. I was born there, and then they bought a house over on Grave Street. It was outside Grave Street, and I was raised there, and I went to Joseph Martin Elementary School, and then to Martinsville Middle School, then Martinsville High School, graduated Martinsville High School.
What do you remember about high school?
Well, mostly, Charles, I played a little bit of sports. Was nothing great, I wasn't a superstar or anything, but I played sports, and I worked, because my daddy always told me if you wanted something, you worked for it and you paid for it and it was yours. So, and I wanted a car and stuff like that. So, I had a job after school and kept up with my grades and kept up with my job and proceeded from there.
After graduation, you volunteered for the Army?
I did. I went very patriotic, Charles. All my family are veterans. I had 3 uncles that were on destroyers in the Pacific in World War II, and my father's family has been in every war in this country. And I'm very patriotic, Charles. I believe in this country. I just think it's the best country in the world. Well, the van itself and the thing that we put on it, the wrap we put on it, it took about 3 weeks for me to work with the lady that did it, and all signs did it. She did a good job. The attitude in this country right now is people want everything this country can give to them, but they don't want to put anything back in it. Mm-hmm. And, that wasn't the way I was raised, and that's the way I look at things, I've been to several countries in the world, most of them in Southeast Asia and things, and I have been to Europe, but this is the best country I've ever set my foot in. Well, Vietnam did affect me, Charles. I mean, I took a lot of training, took 101st Airborne training, and I was sent to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then to Fort Huachuca, Arizona for specialized training in communications and crypto, that's decoding messages and things. And then I was sent into Fort Gordon, Georgia for further training. And then they shipped me out. They gave me orders to go to Vietnam, and I went. And when I got to Cam Ranh Bay, the military is like nothing you've ever been around. Of course, you probably, with being where you were at in Hargrave, you probably know
a little bit.
Yeah, they do what they want to do. It doesn't matter what your job is. You are a soldier first. So instead of going to Saigon and working crypto for messages and stuff, they diverted me to the 101st Airborne up on DMZ at a place called Phu Bai. Now, Phu Bai wasn't a city. People can't find it on the map. It was actually a combat base for 101st Airborne, and it was big as a city. But and that's where I worked out of, and I worked in field communications. And that's about all I want to go into that.
But there's things you saw and things that affected you your whole life, right?
They are, Charles. There's things that even you see with that camera, behind that camera, that affect you. and people don't appreciate it. Only thing this younger generation wants is they want what mom and daddy has worked for 50 or 60 years. And they want it now and not work for it. And I just don't see it in the Constitution's being trampled even by our elected politicians. The Constitution is not being adhered to, or they just ignore it, and I don't believe in that.
Mom is a good judge of character, and she had told me what a nice person he was, and I think Mom was his biggest cheerleader at that time.
How did you get in the jewelry store business?
Well, when I came back from Vietnam and I got went to college and all, and I guess I'd been divorced about 3 years, and they opened a Mega Flea up, and it was it was going to be ran. Deborah's mom that's where I actually met Deborah. Well, Jean, she was always looking for a bargain, and she loved jewelry too, and that's what her and Deborah specialized in, was jewelry and glassware, things like that. So Jean would come down and she would buy stuff. And then one day she said, I got an older daughter I want you to see, and because she buys jewelry too. And I said, well, bring her on down, Jean. We'll fix her up. Well, Jean came so many times, and she, if you knew Jean, you knew Jean Parsons, she would wear you down, buddy. I mean, she loved a deal better than anybody I'd ever seen.
In the very beginning, I said, you have to like antiques and you have to love children. And he said, I love them both.
And he asked her if she ate. And Deborah said, no, I don't.
Finally, it dawned on me, she is a pretty girl. Then I found out she was Jean's daughter. So it took me about 3 months to get my courage together. So,
were you nervous?
God Almighty, Charles, I was shaking like a leaf on a tree.
Deborah, tell you what she did when he asked her? I wasn't there, but I know this story by heart because bless his heart. He, for like a long time, I don't know how long, months, he would kind of talk to her because he had a place at Mega Flea. And Deborah would go there. She'd want me to go because he was there. She said it like antiques, She'd want me to go.
Was she hunting him or was he hunting her?
No, he was really hunting her, but I know she wanted him to. I know she saw him and she thought he was nice looking or something. I don't know. She'd want me to go. Oh, come on, Peggy, go with me to see. Okay. But it took Charles so long to ask her out because when she would go there, she wasn't I don't think the nicest to him. Well, we are sisters, but you could tell if I was hitting on you. Well, you can't tell if Deborah's hitting on you or whatever.
Well, Charles, when he called, he wanted to take me. He'd mentioned a number of different restaurants, even some in Roanoke. I remember Red Lobster and I believe the Dutch Inn at that time. And I said, no. I said, we'll meet at McDonald's. And there was a hesitation there with him. And he said, McDonald's?
I mean, I've been divorced for a long time, and I asked her, she come up to the counter and was looking at stuff, and I just said, I'm going to do it. I just made up my mind I was going to do it. And
reenact it for me. What did you do?
Well, I was standing there, and I was scared to death, Charles. Just scared to death. I mean, she was that pretty. I mean, she's a beautiful woman. And I thought, there ain't no way she's going to go out to eat with me or nothing like that. I just do it. So I walked up to the counter, and the first time I asked her, I said, do you eat? And she looked me dead in the eye, and she said, no. I didn't know what to say. I just turned around and walked off. I didn't know what to say, and then it was probably 6, 7 weeks after that, I was going up River Hill, and this was before cell phones. And she was on the phone right there at Broadview, Texaco. They had a phone box right there, and I thought maybe she had broke down or something, and I didn't know. So I turned around, went back, found out she won't broke down, and we talked a little bit there. And I said, come on by the shop down there Saturday, Sunday, and I'll fix you up or something, So she came down there, and I said, let me rephrase what I asked you before. Would you like to go out and eat with me? And she said, yep, I'll do that.
And I said, yes, McDonald's on 220 South. And he said, okay, what time can I pick you up? And I said, you can't.
I said, that's great. I said, what time you want me to pick you up? Because, I'd already had these visions of grandeur, the, Red Lobsters and the steak houses and the places in Roanoke and in Greensboro, And she said, you can't pick me up. Okay. So, well, now we're going to go out, so how are we going to? She said, I'm going to meet you. And I said, all right. She said, I will meet you at McDonald's on 220 South.
On the first, I guess what you'd call the first encounter or first date.
Can you see why that's weird?
Maybe so, but I had in my mind, if something didn't work out, then there was no obligation. I could get in my car and come home, and he could do the same. But it worked out great.
What?
When did you get to first base with?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I can't even remember. I'm telling you, I was scared to death. I'm just, I'm not a player.
Right. When did you become like her official boyfriend?
I think it sort of just worked its way in there, just, I mean,
You know.
when did I know?
Yeah.
I really didn't know because I didn't know who else she was seeing or anything.
He was a little nervous, I think, because of my, just my attitude.
It wouldn't be.
I just,
Right.
and anyway, we finally wound up talking, and it got to the point where I got more involved in her life.
You think you're a little hard to get along with sometimes? A little peculiar?
Maybe peculiar would be a good word. I guess I am, I see a lot in black and white. There's a lot of things I don't see a gray area there because there is a difference between right and wrong. And maybe I am a little bit alpha, I guess would be a good way to put it.
And her mom and dad, they were great people. They were absolute great people, and they really helped me out because of where I was at in life. I wasn't maybe family oriented or whatever. That's where but they really helped me out, and Deborah really helped me out. And
Deborah, coming here with the part with the Deborah and her family kind of gave you a family.
That's right.
Tell me about that.
That's right. Well, I had a rough childhood. I'm just going to say I had a rough childhood, and it was a rough area I was growing up in. I grew up in, it was either racing cars or drinking beer, and I didn't like drinking beer.
So, but he's a very kind person, and also he was very good looking too. I could show you a picture of Elvis Presley in his military uniform, and I could put it side by side with Charles's, and you could see a similarity there. I remember with his 50th birthday party, I did a cake with Elvis's picture in his uniform on one side and Charles's on the other side. And I remember his mom coming up to me and she said, "Deborah, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "Could you tell," and she called him Junior. She said, because he was Charles Edward Williams Jr., and she said, could you tell me why you put 2 pictures of Junior on the one cake? And I laughed and I said, Miss Williams, I said, they're not both of Charles. And then I went and I got the picture on the album of Elvis Presley, and I said, this is the picture on the cake.
I tell you how Deborah is. I had about a 25-cent shark's tooth necklace on a leather strap, and then I had a little bracelet ring that I wanted to give Brittany, and it wasn't anything. I mean, it was nothing, nothing, no amount of money, just never would let them have it. She said, and she told me right in front of me, she said, I told you not taking anything from anybody you don't know. Yeah. So I worked on her for a couple of weeks, and I just, I more or less just was begging her, just let them have them. The kid, you could tell the kids wanted them, and finally she said, well, y'all go ahead and take it. Well, for whatever reason, I mean, after that, we just had a good relationship going, and I actually got to where I could, I helped Brittany's softball team, and there was a head coach, and I was just helping. But for 5 years, we won the championship for 5 years.
And he was great with my children, and that was my number one priority, is having someone around them that was good for them and was good to them. And I remember from the very beginning, he told me, he said, wherever we go, the children go.
You took so long to find somebody that was good and compatible and stuff. You finally did good. So you need to try and keep that up just a little bit,
And then Brian, he tried baseball and things like that, and he's more studious than he is sports.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he did win a bodybuilding thing here lately. So,
What do you think of that?
Oh, well, I'm proud of it. I mean, because it took dedication.
He looks pretty damn good, doesn't he?
I'm going to tell you, he's ripped. He is really ripped, and he wants to go into another competition, which is another step up. And there's no doubt in my mind he won't make it, because when he gets involved in something, he is dedicated. Now, he's been a vegan since high school and hasn't deviated from it since high school. A whole lot of people don't. They have children, they want the schools to raise them or something like that. Well, Deborah didn't do that. Deborah had full hands on raising her children, and I think it has really shown, because Brian works for an organization in Washington, D.C. and makes good money. Brittany was a nurse practitioner, and she worked her way up where she was over 5 locations, and finally her husband just told her, I'm making enough money, you can go stay home with the kids.
The first time I met Charles was at the flea market, and I guess I met his dog first because I was a kid, and he had this little Boston Terrier named Stinky, and we'd go to the flea market every weekend, and I would just look forward to seeing Stinky, and that's how I met Charles.
And the cute thing about Brittany is, Brittany's got a son and a daughter. Well, the son is just like her brother, Brian, and the daughter's just like her.
When you were growing up, did you think she was too tough?
Oh yeah, I mean, what kid doesn't? I think. But yes, she was a strict parent.
Did it pay off?
But doing okay, so I guess. I was a pretty straight and narrow kid, so I guess it paid off in that respect.
She told me you were like the toughest.
Oh, she says that, but
True.
Oh no, I think it depends on how you defined tougher. That'd probably be my brother, but I think I was probably the easiest.
Brittany is determined that she was the easiest that she was growing up to deal with.
Really?
Did that shock you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always said that Brittany is a lot like me with personality. She has an alpha personality. And so sometimes we would butt heads. Whereas Brian, he would think things through. And usually, if I told him something and reasoned with him, he understood.
What's the hardest thing putting up with Deborah? Let's be real about it.
Sometimes she can be very strong-willed. Most, not say 99.9% of the time.
Right.
She can be very strong-willed, but most of the time, if you listen, she's right.
Do you think she was strict, over strict? What's your opinion on
Yeah, I mean, she was really strict. I mean, you know, your perspective on things starts to change a bit, I think, as you start to become the age your parents were. I mean, now I'm well beyond the age that, I mean, when mom was my age, when I was in college, you know, so, but, you know, when I started to get to be the age that she was, when I was little, we're talking about this era, you know, when she was first meeting Charles and stuff. I mean, we're talking, I mean, what, she was in her 30s, mid 30s, maybe. And you just kind of realize they're just young people trying to figure it out, you know? I mean, what can really prepare you for parenting? You know, you hear about it from your parents and all this kind of stuff, but it's different when you've got your own kids there. And, you know, when you're doing it on your own, fortunately, she found someone as great as Charles, you know, that helped her out in it. But, you know, so yes, she was strict, but she also, like, you know, wanted to make sure that we turned out well, and that we weren't making a lot of the mistakes, I think, that she saw other people making. And so as a kid, that's difficult. And maybe she could have done things differently, or maybe some things could have been better, but, like, how do you know?
Well, he did. And when we went on one of these trips, we always made sure that we had something for the children to do. So if we went to Pennsylvania, I remember finding a music store, and my son really loved music. And so we had to go to this particular music store. And I remember, you know, taking them to Hershey Park when we were up in Pennsylvania. So we tried to incorporate them too in with our, I guess, our fun.
Was he good at it, or was he just acting? I want to know.
Charles, oh, he was good at it. He loved antiques because his dad liked antiques, and so did Charles. But he truly, he's a big kid at heart.
But I couldn't ask anybody to treat me any better, Charles. I couldn't. I don't know what I would have done without her and family.
When we went on one of these trips, we always made sure that we had something for the children to do. So if we went to Pennsylvania, I remember finding a music store, and my son really loved music. And so we had to go to this particular music store. And I remember, you know, taking them to Hershey Park when we were up in Pennsylvania. So we tried to incorporate them too in with our, I guess, our fun.
Was he good at it, or was he just acting? I want to know.
Charles, oh, he was good at it. He loved antiques because his dad liked antiques, and so did Charles. But he truly, he's a big kid at heart.
But not always Rosie. I know she gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning and all kind of things for you.
Yeah, the doctors don't want me driving, and I have to get up for a dialysis 3 days a week, and I have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be there at 5. And I've tried to convince Deborah now, you know, that I'm okay about driving from here to town and back. You know, I might
do it. Will she let you do it?
No, she won't. No, she won't let me do it.
Peggy and Charles get along well. They call each other brother and sister. Peggy always says that Charles was the brother she never had. But their personalities are a lot alike because Peggy will kid and joke with you a lot, and Charles will too. Now, when they have a disagreement, Peggy is another alpha, and she's not going to back down. And Charles is a lot the same way, but they seem to work it out. He would not understand some of the things that I bought. I didn't understand some of the things that he bought. But we finally came to the realization, don't ask me about what I'm buying, and I won't ask you what you're buying. Because our likes with some things were totally different when it came to antiques. course, he loved cars. Okay, cars are beautiful, but I might like jewelry. And so we just learned to work together on that.
Hill school has definitely been a part of your life, right?
Oh, I'm gonna tell you what, Charles, that was a big eye opener for me. Of course, I had lived in tents for 13 months, but I hadn't lived in tents where there was a lot of money involved in it underneath them. So when we would go up, we would set up the tents, and then at nighttime, if it rained, then I would get up and make sure the rain didn't pull the tents down and stuff like that, and make sure everything was covered and all. And finally got to the point where Gene and Walter had a place across from Deborah. And I told the VFW up there, because I am a life member of the VFW, 1115 up at Hills. I said, if y'all let me asphalt that space, I'll put a metal building on it, and we'll use it 2 weeks out of the year, and y'all use it the rest of the time. And they agreed to it. I mean, it's in the minutes of it. They agreed to it. So I asphalted the space up there, put the building down, put Walter and Gene in there, and it worked out so well that the next year I did Deborah. And so they were side by side, the two buildings side by side. And I parked a camper now in that area where we had Deborah's tents and all. I put the camper in there, and we parked cars of people helping us out there.
But Hill School is like the ultimate flea market, right?
I'm going to tell you, one time, Charles, I think it was about 8 years ago, they charge $1 to get in the gate. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying anybody's crooked or anything, but sometimes when people messing with cash money, it can,
Missing.
right. So, but we had 300,000 people to come through the VFW lot in that 1 year, in those 3 days. 300,000 people.
But
Well, so every year, a couple times a year, and later times, they would always, Mom and Grandma and Charles and us kids would always go up to Pennsylvania on these antique buying trips. We'd go all around kind of central Pennsylvania to Adamstown, Pottstown, Kutztown, Reading, all around there. And Charles would do all the driving. It's a long drive. And, he's hauling 2 women who were very focused, my mom and my grandma, who were very focused on the task at hand, going up there and getting the best deals possible and the most stuff and all that. And 2 little kids who would rather not be there, trying to do anything else than do all that stuff. And there's Charles caught in the middle of it, who's having to ferry everybody around. Stopping at every yard sale on the way up and the way back, and in between each thing there.
deal,
Get a deal, and just uncomplaining about it all. They say, oh, stop at this, and he would just pull right over, sit there and go out with them, help them load up all the stuff. And on the way back from those trips, the vehicle would you could barely sit in it. I mean, it would pile things around us. And remember, Grandma would be sitting there with stuff under her legs and on her lap, very content with it because she got all these deals. And he wouldn't have any company on the drive because they would fall asleep immediately. And he would be on this long haul, back in Pennsylvania. And it's just an example of, I think, how he was, he had such a good time, I think, with everyone because he loved everyone so much and he loved doing all this stuff so much.
It wasn't a chore.
It wasn't a chore, yeah. And I just have so many memories of doing that every year, with Charles at the helm, making all this happen for everybody.
Has it to live around all these pack rats?
For me?
Yeah.
I think it's funny because now I hold on to sentimental stuff. I'm a sentimental person, so if an object is sentimental to me, I tuck it away and all that stuff. But other than that, I do not clutter my space. I'm pretty minimal. It's kind of made me a minimalist. Like I like my space to be like kind of clean and modern, not a lot of clutter around. and so it's maybe caused me to go in the opposite way. But I do have an appreciation, for it. As I said, it made me appreciative of sentimental things. But I mean, I do appreciate the value of um, old things, of old like cultural artifacts and collectibles and antiques and things like that. And I understand it. But
But Deborah doesn't understand why y'all don't really appreciate it because she said like Brittany hates antiques, right?
well, she might.
Yeah.
Brittany might. I don't. I don't hate it. I think it's cool.
For the family here, it's been like a reunion twice a year, right?
Right. Well, see, Gene and Walter were actually one of the original five that started it. And they set up out there on asphalt next to the building. And I think Walter had a heat stroke. So they made him a place in the grass area
Yeah.
and moved him over there to keep him from, keep him coming back. And I think it really hurt. I know it hurt Gene when Walter couldn't go with him. I know, we made sure she had plenty of help, and I got stuff up there and got it out and everything. And I'd get it out, then they would come and they would sort it out and, where they wanted it. But I think when Walter couldn't come, that hurt Gene. But I think when Gene passed, I think it took a little hold out of everybody around there. Because, I mean, you would be surprised that Peggy put a book out, like you would sign at a funeral home. And you'd be surprised how many people come around sign that book. I mean, everybody knew it, but she.
Well, he did. And when we went on one of these trips, we always made sure that we had something for the children to do. So if we went to Pennsylvania, I remember finding a music store, and my son really loved music. And so we had to go to this particular music store. And I remember, taking them to Hershey Park when we were up in Pennsylvania. So we tried to incorporate them too in with our, our fun.
Was he good at it or was he just acting? I want to know.
Charles, he was good at it. He loved antiques because his dad liked antiques, and so did Charles. But he truly, he's a big kid at heart.
What do you think about Charles' work?
I think you're great, bud.
Uh-huh.
I do. I think you're doing a great job. I've seen you grow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have really matured a lot over the years as going, because, it used to be, I thought, man, how in the world do you get by with that? But, you have grown your business, which I think is great. I just think this area needs business growing like you do. And I think you bring out things that people don't want brought out, but need to be brought out. I remember one time the lawyer's wife run through a building downtown, was drinking, and had the wrong name on the ticket and all that, and you found all that and brought it out. But you know what? If they were living the right life, they wouldn't have done it to start with, but even if they had been an accident, they would have given the right name.
Has Star News affected you because you've kind of been in the bubble too?
Oh, man, I tell you what. It just... well, I sold ads for you for a little bit, that thing, and then I found out somebody was cutting my throat. so yeah. Anyway, and sometimes it's best just to back away from something instead of causing big ruckus. So, but I'm actually proud of you, and I know your mom and dad would be too.
And I want to be real sincere from the heart. So, yeah.
All right. Charles, you have been like a father to me, and I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for us from the time when Brittany and I were little kids, through adolescence and through the teenage years and college and into adulthood and our careers and beyond. I mean, you've been there every step of the way. And the love that you have shown to us is hard. It's hard to describe. It's hard to calculate. It's hard to imagine that someone coming from the outside, who weren't your biological children, but like coming into this family and taking us on as your own. Um, it's just it's amazing. And I I have so many great memories of us all together, and so many great memories of not just the times we've had, but the sincere heart to heart conversations that we've had. And it all means the world to me. Um, and I could tell a million stories, but I'm just thankful. Um, and I love you. I love you very much.
I think with whenever you're a step parent, and you're coming into that role, I think that's probably one of the hardest roles that anybody will have to encounter. Because at the end of the day, um, the the kids, especially at a young age, will always see that person almost as an outsider when you're young. Um, and Charles, when we were kids, we were probably not the easiest stepkids to deal with. My brother and I. Um, but the one thing I want Charles to know is that he has he has been a man that I have looked up to since I was a child, whether I express that or whether I don't. But he is I've always thought of him as a father figure and um, just a genuinely good person. I think it's rare that you find people that, even to their core, they are like a genuinely good person. And um, and that's him. He's a rare egg, and we were lucky that we found him, and he became a part of our family.
For the family here, it's been like a reunion twice a year, right?
Right. Well, see, Gene and Walter were actually one of the original five that started it. And they set up out there on asphalt next to the building. And I think Walter had a heat stroke, so they made him a place in the grass area
Yeah.
and moved him over there to keep him from, keep him coming back. And I think it really hurt. I know it hurt Gene when Walter couldn't go with him. I know, we made sure she had plenty of help, and I got stuff up there and got it out and everything. And I'd get it out, then they would come and they would sort it out and, where they wanted it. But I think when Walter couldn't come, that hurt Gene. But I think when Gene passed, I think it took a little hold out of everybody around there. Because, I mean, you would be surprised that Peggy put a book out, like you would sign at a funeral home. And you'd be surprised how many people come around sign that book. I mean, everybody knew it, but she.
Is he a good dude?
Oh, he's very good. There's so many good qualities about Charles. I don't tell him. I'm sure he'll see this, but I don't tell him because that's my job as a sister, not to tell him. But he has a lot of good qualities. He's a God. The first thing, he's a God-fearing man. That is given. He is patriotic. He is honest. He is caring. He will do anything for people if it's honest and within reason. He looks after his community. He looks after his family. Like my parents, they taught us that you will do everything for your family, no matter what, for us, right? And Charles fits in that perfectly.
I just thank God for every day, Charles. Sometimes people don't understand or they'll forget, but when that sun comes up in the morning and that sun goes down, and then you look at the weather, the different seasons, everything getting green and blooming and stuff like that. Thank God for every day I get to see that.
Charles is a good balance for me. We certainly liked a lot of the same activities. He was wonderful with my children, and we always told each other that we wished we had found each other earlier in life. But that's not the way God planned it, and we understand that. But I think he has been just a very integral part of my life, and I just think I just love him for it. I have not looked at the interviews yet, but I'm sure that I'm probably going to have to help Charles Rourke edit it.
Wow.
Well, just to make sure. Well, I don't even have to answer that question. People are familiar with Charles Rourke, and they know he wants to catch me at something. Good luck. Brittany was going to go at anything she did full force. And she always, well, I wouldn't say always, but I'd say most of the time she did well at it. But sometimes I had to talk with her and we'd take a step back and try to analyze what was going on. But was she the easiest to raise? I would say no. No.
All right. I want you to tell, like, if Charles was in the room, if you were looking at him, I want you to tell him thank you for just putting up with me. Can you do that?
I would say over the years, because of my personality, I might not have been the easiest person to deal with, particularly with my schedule. And Charles always told me, you fit 25 hours a day into a 24-hour period. And he would always say, Deborah, you can't say no. When someone would call and say, can you help me with this? I would always fit it in. And I would say that he accepted my role with my job and being involved in local government. And honestly, for 30 plus years, he was a permanent fixture at our regular monthly board meetings. And I always laughed because I said that between Charles and my two children, they probably knew more about local government than I did, because I would bring both my children to the meetings and they would sit there. And of course, they were young, but you never heard anything out of them. They might be coloring or reading, but I really think Brian was listening, because when I would ask certain questions, he was able to answer what went on in a meeting. But those were different times.
Can you say thank you, Charles?
Thank you for putting up with me. That's a big thank you. That's right.
All right. Tell me.
One of the things that Charles is known for, and I hear that all the time, is his blue eyes. And a lot of people will comment about his blue eyes because they're a different shade of blue. And I remember one of his classmates coming up to him at one of the high school reunions, and they said, where did those blue eyes come from? And he looked at her and he said, I've always had them. Works well with mine, where he kids a lot, and whereas I'm more serious in nature, and sometimes I don't always understand his jokes or his sense of humor. Other people do, and they love his personality, He just had the total package. He would not understand some of the things that I bought. I didn't understand some of the things that he bought. But we finally came to the realization, don't ask me about what I'm buying, and I won't ask you what you're buying. Because our likes with some things were totally different when it came to antiques. Of course, he loved cars. Okay, cars are beautiful, but I might like jewelry. And so we just learned to work together on that. I like that. Next thing I know, he had bought it for me. And he always, if I wanted something, he made sure I had it. Peggy and Charles get along well. They call each other brother and sister. Peggy always says that Charles was the brother she never had. But their personalities are a lot alike because Peggy will kid and joke with you a lot, and Charles will too. Now, when they have a disagreement, Peggy is another alpha, and she's not going to back down. And Charles is a lot the same way, but they seem to work it out.